This week in the South Carolina State House, suspended Senator John Courson appeared in a Richland County courtroom for a bond hearing dealing with the ethics charges that stem from an investigation in the State House. In the Senate, a roads bill is officially stalled. Over in the House, a bill dealing with open carry of weapons is poised to bounce. And in both the House and Senate committees, there are two bills dealing with medical marijuana that received more input and more debate this past week. The long-serving senator appeared in Judge McMahon's Richland County courtroom Wednesday afternoon, where he was presented with some of the evidence against him by Special Prosecutor David Pasco.
Specifically, and for what he's indicted for, is that on 13 occasions where Mr. Courson received money from Richard Quinn and Associates, it correlated directly with money that his Senate campaign sent to Richard Quinn and Associates. The money that Mr. Courson received, that is correlated directly to money that he sent to Richard Quinn and Associates.
It's alleged that Courson sent about $250,000 in campaign funds to his political consultants Richard Quinn and Associates and received about $130,000 back from them between 2006 and 2012. The firm has denied any wrongdoing. Courson's lawyer, Rosemary Parham, asked for a speedy trial to prove Courson's innocence, especially since Courson has stage 4 cancer.
You know, I don't know what he thinks is significant or why he thinks it's significant. I have not seen what the evidence is in this case. We look forward to getting it, but you know, I know what I believe the truth is in this matter, and we look forward to presenting that to a jury.
At a separate event this week, Governor Henry McMaster said that he will stay with the political consulting group Richard Quinn and Associates that he's used since the early 90s.
Quinn and Associates has done great work for me and a lot of others, and I plan to stick with them. They do great work, great political work. My campaign for chair, party chair, years ago. 1993. They do excellent work. I see no reason to stop working with them at this time. John Courson is one of the most honorable men I know.
The $800 million roads bill hit the Senate floor nearly 2 weeks ago and has lingered since, as lawmakers have apparently worked privately to iron out details over issues such as reform to the South Carolina Department of Transportation and tax swaps over the 12-cent gas tax per gallon increase and other vehicle-related fees increased in the roads bill. On Wednesday, senators fell 5 votes short of the necessary 2/3 majority to set the roads bill for special order, which gives it special debate priority status. Earlier in the week, the Senate Finance Committee approved the state's $8 billion budget, which now heads to the Senate floor for debate next week.
All in favor of the adoption, raise your right hand.
The budget does have priority on the Senate floor, and while it did grow over last year and does have a small surplus, there are still agencies that have needs in the billions of dollars. Some of those needs are addressed in a House Ways and Means Committee approved $500 million bond bill that was sent out of committee earlier this week. Half of that bond bill will go towards higher education maintenance and improvement projects. The remaining millions will go towards state needs such as agency improvements to buildings and $30 million to school buses.
Haven't done one in quite so long, and we've got a log jam in the state of facilities in disarray.
A Senate Medical Affairs Subcommittee held another 5-hour-long hearing on the bill that would make marijuana legal for those with medical approval. The Senate hearing focused on law enforcement input and drew testimony from officials that have states that have medical marijuana laws, such as Arizona and Colorado. However, those testimonies occasionally stirred in debate about recreational legalization, which is a completely different topic from what the Senate bill is aimed to do.
Well, what we're looking for, we know that there are a lot of people who oppose marijuana use. We're looking for a small segment of use for people in chronic pain. I'm not talking about 18-year-olds. I'm talking about people that are dying or people that have specific ailments that will be beneficial. We've heard our doctors from our medical university tell us that that's true.
This has been framed as medical versus recreational. I'm going to tell you my experience. That's not the issue. It was commercial marijuana versus that small cultivation. When we allowed individuals to have up to 6 plants and that was it, I had very few problems. It was almost not noticeable at the time. I didn't approve of it, but it was what it was, and we got through it. In 2009, when the famous, or depending on which side you are, the infamous Ogden memo came out from the United States Department of Justice, overnight, we saw hundreds and up to over 1,000 marijuana businesses pop up because the federal government essentially said we're behind medical marijuana. It can happen. It will happen in each of the states.
We're trying to treat cannabis as a controlled substance in the same way that opiates are, to alleviate suffering. And so people that I've gone around to see throughout this state, and people that I see are actually suffering, not malingerers, not somebody looking to score a joint to smoke up, people who are suffering can get that medicine.
And the implications for law enforcement and communities are extensive. At the last committee meeting, you asked to hear from law enforcement specific concerns with this legislation, and there are many. I will tell you that the principle of probable cause will be heavily and adversely affected in law enforcement's work. The potential for resale and black market abuse of marijuana is a very real potential, as this bill allows someone to purchase 2 ounces every 14 days, which would amount to more than 5 joints every day. And again, you can get up here and you can talk about seed to sale or clone to sale all you want, but the bottom line, when it goes out of the door of that dispensary, the diversion is going to happen.
But if my 12-and-a-half-year-old son figured out how to get it for 5 years, don't you think somebody's going to figure out how to get it today, and it isn't going to be because of diversion from a medical marijuana program? It's so plentiful and so available that nobody's going to struggle if they want it. It's there, and it's illegal.
The Republican-held House debated a bill dealing with dismemberment abortions for 5 hours on Wednesday before eventually voting on it along party lines. Most lawmakers debated the bill that would criminalize doctors who perform a common procedure in the second trimester of a pregnancy. The fetus must first be euthanized before the dilation and evacuation procedure, not killed as a result of it.
So it is mind-boggling to me that we even have to debate an issue like this, that we have to argue about the legality of an abortionist using clamps, grasping forceps, tongs, scissors, or other similar items to slice, crush, and/or grasp a portion of a living unborn child.
Because everywhere that this has been passed, it has failed miserably. You know, I think we have an obligation. We take an oath for this office to uphold and defend the Constitution of our state and our nation. But somehow we seem to forget that when we pass facially unconstitutional bills. And guess what you're going to do? You pass this, you're going to pay a bunch of Planned Parenthood lawyers of millions of dollars, because Planned Parenthood's been collecting millions of tax dollars all over this country because legislatures who are dominated by that type of rhetoric we heard instead of rational, scientific thought about the real world.
After the 87-19 vote, the House took up the open carry gun bill. Lawmakers invoked cloture to advance the bill with limited debate. However, the House adjourned shortly after and is expected to return to the bill next week.
In anybody's lifetime in here, we have never seen a member move the previous question before we even got on the bill. I consider that absolutely dilatory and offense to this institution.
All right, Mr. Smith, that's not a point of order that relates to the roll call. I'll overrule your point of order. Time has expired on the vote. Polls will close. Clerk will tabulate by a vote of 62 to 38. The House invokes the previous question.
Next week, the Senate will be debating the budget and could also eventually tackle several other bills on their 23-page calendar if they pass the budget in time and feel the need to take up other bills before the April 6th crossover date. Now, if they don't get bills, just like the House across the aisle, by April 6th, the chances of those bills actually getting passed into law this year are greatly diminished. Crossover day is about a month until session ends, and even if they do make it over to the other chamber, there's no guarantee that those bills will get either hearings or even passed into law or debated on the floor. For SCE TV, this is Gavin Jackson at the State House in Columbia.